I hereby introduce to you Mr. Michael Veazey.
Welcome to this episode. Today we are bringing this episode is brought to you by Amazing FBA and the private label course that we've just created, which is so new, I haven't even officially named it yet. You can help in that process. We are making 10 places available for beta testers only, and we have already probably got about 6 or 7 of those taken by last count. So there are only about 3 places left. So the full price of the course is going to be £395 from September. The beta testers are going to get it half price, so just £195 or dollar equivalent, whatever that is, about $270, something like that. Why should you consider this? Well, it's step by step for people who are absolutely starting out from scratch. We have about 6 hours of content recorded so far, and we'll probably end up with about 10. But we've broken it into tiny absorbable chunks of 2 to 3-4 minutes per video in most cases. It's step by step. Not only that, but you're going to start off by learning the basics of Amazon with a bit of quick and dirty retail arbitrage. That's how we work. You don't have to do that, but it's a very, very wise starting point. Then the second thing we offer is how to test products that are not private labeled, but are as close to that as you can get to test out the market, learn your skills, learn to import and export, get comfortable with the process, and then move on to private labeling. So it's all about learning, doing, and reviewing. That whole circle, virtuous circle, is the entire philosophy of the course. And I believe that gives it a bit of a unique spin, although a lot of the stuff, the mechanics will be similar to what's out there, but the way we put it together as a structure, as a course, I think is reflective of how the podcast works. It's just to be dynamic, to be real, to be focused, and to actually focus on real results, not less fantasy and more doing and more action and results. So if that interests you, just send me an email, michael@amazingfba.com, Michael for Michael at amazingfba.com. And in the subject line, simply say that you're interested in the private label course beta. That's it. Thanks so much for listening. Now on with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm delighted to welcome back John Cant of Rising Sun Commerce. We've been talking about how to sell in Japan, and it sounds one hell of a lot more straightforward than I personally thought it was, which is very good news. It's also now the 3rd biggest Amazon marketplace after Germany. It's bigger than the UK now. So there's a major, major hint, especially to those of us who are UK-based sellers, but not limited to that. If you're US-based, then please listen in, or for that matter, Australia or anywhere else in the world. And if you want to hear more about that, go to www.amazingfba.com/John C JOHNC for Cant. And welcome back, John. Let's talk about launching in Japan.
Hi there. Yeah.
How do we get going then? So obviously we talked about the fact there aren't any research tools like Jungle Scout, Market Intelligence, Helium 10, whatever else people are used to using. Once you've got the products through customs, which sounds reasonably straightforward, you just need to use the right sort of freight forwarder who's got the ability to act as an importer of record, pay some reasonable sounding import duties and so forth. So what next? We've got it into the FBA storage centers, which seem to work the same way as the UK, US. How do we get the thing launched?
So back to, I'll use our product as an example. We kind of went for a fairly steady PPC approach. So we started with a low price, and we just ran, we ran some PPC ads to the listing. Basically, that was all that we did to start with. The product didn't have any reviews, but because it's less of a competitive marketplace, I've not sold on .com, but my understanding of .com is it's so crazily competitive that without getting about 30 product reviews, you struggle to make headway. Whereas we didn't find that in Japan. Even without any reviews, we were still generating sales with our PPC campaigns.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly things are changing rapidly because in .com recently Amazon's been culling a lot of reviews. It's been putting reviews velocity limits, i.e. you can only add so many reviews per product per week or per day. And so it's all changing somewhat, but you're right, there are a lot of reviews on the big products, so it does mean that you've got to have a certain number. I would say the magic number is about 21 if they're 5-star, but still it's got to be something.
Yeah, we just ran pay-per-click ads and auto campaigns to them to generate some sales the first few weeks. They trickled in at 1 or 2 a day, I think, for the first few weeks. I think it took a month or so. We got up to 3 per day at the end of the month. And yeah, and then we got a couple of organic reviews as well. And once we got the reviews, then we saw a big jump in conversion straight away, even though, it was literally only 2 reviews we got, but the conversion rate jumped significantly on that, which meant that all of a sudden our advertising was a lot more efficient.
So a couple of questions. First of all, are there any services that you can use to do launch, like Jump Send, Viral Launch, anything else?
Yeah, there's a company called Judo Launch that
I know it well. Yes, I interviewed Chris Rawlings from Judo.
Okay, yeah. So they're working on offering their services for Japan.
Okay. Excellent. Oh, well, I'm sure Chris will be pleased to be mentioned. He's a young man on a mission. I have to say, a young man. It makes you sound very crusty, but I'm 44 and so I've just turned 30, I think. So he's definitely a young man. But great. So, okay, Judo Launch. Well, there you go.
I've spoken to Chris. He's a nice guy.
He is. He knows his stuff, and he's a very with it entrepreneur. A lot of initiative, a lot of understanding of how the Chinese sort of scene works in terms of the business scene and the money that sloshes around there. So yeah, if he's doing it, I think it's got a savvy guy behind it for sure. So okay, so Judo Launch would do that. So that's not something you didn't even bother with launch services by the sound of it. You just kind of got on with it and it worked fine.
Yeah. I mean, it was fairly steady, but it was okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the thing is, there's no point in using a sledgehammer to crack a nut if what you do works. Then, especially if it's a somewhat speculative thing and we're not sure about it, and you can't really put the numbers in the research in that you would with Jungle Scout in the US or something. Then I guess there's no harm in going gently at the beginning, and then next time around, if you do something similar, you could be more aggressive. Or
if it was us doing it again, we'd probably go more aggressive at the start. I think just to try and get that velocity up at the start. But each, the clients we work with, to be honest, they've all got their own approach and their own ideas how they want to do things.
Yeah, I guess you can cut your coat according to your cloth and how aggressive you want to be, how deep your pockets are, that kind of thing, right?
It depends how much stock you send in as well. If you don't, there's no point going crazy if you don't have enough. If you're just doing the first batch as an experiment to see how it goes, then you don't want to be going too crazy because you'll sell out and then you'll be faced with the problem of being out of stock and having to
absolutely. Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think actually probably I would do something like send over some units that I thought was about the right ballpark of number, go gently, see if it sort of started to take off. And if it did, I'd hurry back to my supplier, get a lot more units, and then do an aggressive launch for something like that would probably be a good halfway house, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So tell us about PPC. It sounds like it was the main driver of the launch. And I was talking only yesterday with Danny McMillan. His episode will have been published last couple of days or last week, I guess, about PPC. And in America these days, often it doesn't seem to make much difference. It sounds like actually it was a useful driver. Okay. So how do we deal with PPC then if we don't actually speak Japanese? Is it possible to work your way around that?
Well, when we first launched our product, we set up an auto campaign, and then we put some seed keywords into a broad match campaign, and that's how we started. We used the auto campaign to almost come up with ideas and find out what customers were actually searching for, so that we could use that data to help us optimize the list and then gradually improve the campaigns ourselves.
Okay, so tell me a bit about listing then, because obviously if you're going to run auto campaign, it will tend to work on the basis of the keywords that are actually in the listing to start with, and then it will tune itself to the interactions between the search and the actual listing. So, so how do we actually get the right keywords in the first place, assuming we don't speak Japanese?
Again, you can either use whatever your English keywords are and translate them word for word. That's a starting point. We can look at your listing and come up with ideas as well for what we think are good, like brainstorming keywords for your particular product. Google, you could use Google Keywords tool to export a list of keywords that are, that's quite tricky if you don't speak Japanese, because you've got to filter out all the rubbish, I guess. But
yeah, I guess by that point, we're probably going to be giving you a call and going, John, can you help with this? I'm in a pickle. But yeah, so in theory, the lazy way of doing it would be just run auto. Before we do that, so in terms of the listing, sorry, I'm getting confused here. In terms of the listing, the lazy way of doing it is just translate your English listing and then that's it.
Yeah. but I know it's worth doing some keyword research as well. You can look at your competitors and see what comes out, but obviously if you don't speak Japanese, then it's harder to do that. So I guess I think that's kind of where we can really add value to somebody who's listening in Japan, because we've got the experience of doing that, and we've got sort of systems in place to help do that, really.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess there's no substitute for calling in the experts, really. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it. And I have to say, DIY is normally pretty painful when it comes to international things, and pretty damn easy for somebody who's done it before. So having worked with people to launch them in Germany, I happen to speak fluent German. I wouldn't even try and do this on my own in Japan. Why would I bother?
Yeah, I mean,
for a small amount of money relative to the upside potential, I can employ somebody to just deal with it.
It's worth saying, the other added difficulty here is Japan has 3 different alphabets: hiragana, katakana, and kanji. So every word has potentially got 3 variations of it. So they're sometimes used interchangeably, or you don't quite know which one's going to work as well. So, for example, one of our clients sold hairbrushes, and there was the word kushi, which is the general term for hairbrush. So, for example, if I was at home and brushing my daughter's hair, I might say to my wife, "Can you pass me the kushi?" And obviously, the other bit would be in Japanese too. But so we put that in as one of the main keywords that we started off with, and it just wasn't generated any sales. Now, there is also another word for hairbrush, which you would pronounce hairbrushy, which that's kind of almost a literal translation of English into their phonetic alphabet, which is written in the katakana alphabet. And that was the one that actually was responsible for the most sales. So,
wow. Okay. So at this point, we just say, you know what, let's hand it over to the experts to do the keyword research in Japanese, and then come back and have a discussion with us about what fits with our product and what we're trying to achieve with it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
There's no substitute for that. I mean, by the time you've dug around trying to teach yourself 3 alphabets, I think that's a point where you outsource. So you get some help. I think that would be common sense to me. And I'd imagine to a lot of listeners, particularly if you've already got turnover in the UK or USA, I think, it's not like you're starting from raw scratch. So, okay, well, that deals with that. I mean, in a way, it's fairly early on. We're going to have to reach out by the sound of it and get the keywords right, and then, work with you to get the listing. So, let's talk again about reviews, because you mentioned that, you got organic reviews. You didn't need a ton of them. But when it comes to organic reviews, are they about the same as in the UK or USA, whatever your comparison points are? What review percentage do you end up with as a percentage of sales?
So we saw about 3% review rate for our Japan listings, which is kind of similar to what we've experienced in the UK, really.
That's
on average, they tend to be slightly lower. So our products rated in Japan is slightly lower than it is in the UK for the same product. But that's just Japanese people don't give a 5-star review, as they don't give it away as they do, as people do in the UK. Even a 4-star review is kind of seen as good in Japan. So
but I guess again, it's all relative.
Exactly.
If everyone else has got a 4-star average review and you got 4.2, then you look good.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing that we did notice, it's like a baby product, and one customer, they put their doll into their car seat and they took like 3 or 4 different photos, and the review is so good, it looks like it's review manipulation and somebody's done it on purpose, but it was a genuine customer that did this review. So Japanese people will go the extra mile to give good reviews if they really like the product.
All right, interesting. It sounds like a lot of things that I would know of Japanese people. If they like something, they really make the effort, but on the other hand, they're a bit more perfectionist than the Brits, by the sound of it, or the Americans who sort of throw around 5-star reviews as if actually read what it says. It says, it's quite good.
yeah, exactly. So, they might give you a 4-star review, but they might say something really nice about it.
Yeah. So my experience in Germany is a little bit like that they're pretty fussy consumers, and they will quite easily give rude reviews. They tend to be a bit more proactive at actually sending an email and saying there's a problem, in my experience, than the UK or US. And I did have a product I worked with a client for a while that had a lot of problems. So it was like a sort of 3-country experiment in how different people terrible products. And that was quite interesting to me. So how fussy are Japanese consumers? I mean, does it have to be better quality than the US, or are they as fussy as Germans? Or maybe you don't even have a comparison point there.
I think they're quite similar to us Brits in a lot of ways. I'd say that's probably the nearest comparison. They're probably harder, as well, I've said that already. They're harder to get a 5-star review from, but they don't complain that much, kind of thing as well. They're kind of quite easygoing, I think.
Okay. Well, that sounds pretty good. I have to say that if you haven't sold in Germany, which, bearing in mind, is the second biggest Amazon marketplace, and if you're selling in the UK, if you have stock in the UK in Amazon FBA warehouses, I think you'd be crazy not to try. But that said, you just should go in knowing that if your product is second rate, the Germans are going to tell you about it. It sounds like the Japanese are kind of a halfway house between Germans and Brits by the sound of it. So
the Japanese, generally speaking, do like quality products, and they wouldn't be afraid to spend good money on quality products. But at the same time, everybody's price sensitive to some degree. So if you're offering a good value product, then Japan is also a good market for good value products too. So.
Yeah, I think value speaks everywhere, doesn't it? And price sensitivity, I guess Amazon's engineered a price sensitive market. I mean, one of Amazon's stated missions that Jeff Bezos kind of restates every so often is, well, I'm not sure what Amazon's going to look like in 10 years' time, but one thing I know is that consumers probably want more selection, lower prices, quicker delivery. And of course, two of those, more selection and lower prices, are not in our favor as sellers at all. So we have to be aware that is a constant pressure on Amazon. So that's true everywhere. But nevertheless, it doesn't sound like Japanese consumers are any worse anywhere else, and possibly better than the Germans by the sound of it. Tell me about customer service then. So that's obviously part of the experience for customers. If there is an issue, that we deal with it properly. Is there a lot of customer service? Do you get a lot of emails? It sounds like they're not that bad.
No, they're not. They're not that common, I'd say. Like for like, they're probably less often than the UK. But when they do come in, you still need to adhere to Amazon's 24-hour reply limit and be on hand to reply straight away. You need to give, if you are replying as well, you need to make sure that your language is nice and polite. You can't really get away with Google Translate for replying to messages. You can use Google Translate to understand what the message is about initially, and there's some of the tools that you can use as well to help you understand the inbound stuff. But when you're replying to customers, you do need to make sure that it's nice and polite.
That's a very good point. I was just about to ask that. So so Google Translate, which I think probably does the job in Italy or Spain or France if you don't really speak the language. With Germans, you can get away with English because with some bad German translation, but they won't be that pleased. I think you'd be better off employing somebody to do that. But it sounds like in Japan, okay, Google Translate to understand inbound, but when you're writing to them, you basically need to use somebody who knows their stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's clear guidance. Okay, well, it's good. And I imagine if it's not very frequent, that it's not going to be very...
No, I mean, they're not very frequent at all. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So we've already talked about listings, and we said, can you just translate the UK or US listing? We've talked about, we need to think about, keyword research. Ideally, it sounds like keyword research in the language would be a useful thing to get. I presume that's something that you guys offer. Is it as part of your services?
Yeah, I mean, I think comes back. The main service that we offer is helping you get it set up correctly. So we sort of mix translation with also looking at whatever products it is you're going to be selling from a Japanese consumer's point of view, and looking to see if there's any marketing message that we can kind of add to the copy as well. Making sure that the keywords, we've sort of touched on that before, making sure that the right blend of keywords and the different alphabets are all in there too. And then we can help you optimize it as well once you've got your listing set up. It's not going to be perfect from the off, so we can help you adjust the copy as you learn more about the marketplace and any keyword data that comes into.
Excellent. All right. So this is obvious. I'm not making a sort of big pitch for you, because I feel that I'm here to provide value, or I'm here to be the conduit through which, I speak to people like yourselves that are specialists in particular areas. But it does sound to me that common sense says Japan is not a place to DIY it. You need to get somebody who knows what they're doing. And if you do that, it sounds like it's an extremely solvable problem. So just it's fairly natural for me to ask, I think, what sort of services can you actually do? It sounds like there are a lot of nuances you can help us deal with. What can you help with out of all the stuff we've discussed so far?
Just getting your listing set up correctly, and then doing the PPC setup, and also continuing to analyze your PPC campaigns and optimize your listing based on the data that comes in. And then also customer support and seller support and reviews and feedback kind of thing. So if you get negative reviews or feedback that's kind of unjustified or falls outside of Amazon's terms of service, then you can get it removed, kind of thing. So we can help with those types of things too. But they're few and far between. I don't want to scaremonger people. It's not like they're every day.
So it's a pretty small amount of problems to solve, but when they are there, you guys solve it.
Yeah, we're on hand to help you.
Great.
Well, yeah, if you need it.
And tell me about the logistics, because that sounds like the importing side sounds like the biggest actual barrier. So you guys mentioned a shipping company. Is that somebody you just recommend, or are they kind of partnered with you in a sort of hand in glove service?
No, we just used them a few times and recommended them to other clients who've used them numerous times and they've been fine. And they do the importer of record service. So that's where. So
you have a sort of loose connection with them.
Yeah. But I mean, anybody's, if you've got your own freight forwarding company that you want to use, that's fine. It's not,
quite a lot of people who are doing serious numbers in various different countries will already have a freight forwarder in place anyway. I'd imagine that a Chinese freight forwarder would, given the proximity of the countries and the amount of trade going to Japan, would quite likely have a handle on that and might have a subsidiary office in Japan. But okay, great. And product research, it sounds like you don't actually offer that as a service, which is fair enough. And the choice of product is obviously down to the client. But it does look like you can give people a bit of feedback with some common sense based on your knowledge of Japanese culture.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, look, I think there isn't that much more to say, because it sounds like the problems are very specific. You have very specific solutions to them. So it sounds like overall the upsides are even more than I thought, and the downsides are very solvable. So very exciting stuff. Have you got any more general advice to anyone who's wanted to sell in Japan, or any sort of tips things you wish you'd done differently?
I think having a cautious approach to begin with is, take it steady to begin with. Don't get carried away. But other than that, give it a go, I think, because, it's a great opportunity. It seems to be accelerating quite quickly. So, it's a good chance. Now's a good time to get in, really.
Fantastic. Well, look, I think that's a pretty clear message. So, John, thank you so much for coming on. Pretty excited about this. I mean, Japan's been something that's been vaguely on the edge of my radar, but I think it's come right up the list of things to investigate seriously now because of this conversation. So you've really helped me personally. I suspect there'll be a lot of people in the same bucket. So the same boat, I should say. So if people want to get hold of you, obviously, first of all, folks, you can come to check out the notes from this interview, amazingfba.com/John CJOHNC. How else can people get hold of you, John?
Sure. So we got the website risingsuncommerce.co.uk, which I guess you'll link to on the show notes.
Absolutely.
We've got a case study on there, which kind of gives all the sales data and stuff about this baby car mirror that we first started off with, which is useful for people to look at how we got started. We've got some blog posts and stuff on the website as well, some other articles that I think people will find useful. And if you've got any questions, then drop me an email, John, JOHN @risingsuncommerce.co.uk. And I'm happy to help any which way I can. So,
Amazing.
If you've got any questions, it's fine.
Great. Well, yes, I'm sure that if people have got any common sense, they'll be getting in touch, because I can't stress enough, whether you go for this particular opportunity or whether John's a particular person to help you or however you do it, the UK is going to be a challenging old place to sell into from March 2019. And we don't even know what the challenges are. As I said in the Brexit talk I was doing, I'm not scaremongering, because there is simply looking ahead, seeing what's coming down the path or what could be coming, and having an alternative. And I can't stress enough how basic I think that is to business strategy. And Japan does look like a serious part of the equation.
Yeah.
To take it.
Yeah.
Great. John, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolute pleasure. Lovely to talk to you. And,
yeah, you too. We'll get you back on in a few months and see how things have developed in Japan and get an update from you.
I'd be glad to. Nice one.
Excellent. All right. Great to talk to you, and take care and speak to you soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.